Should I be writing this down?
Are you watching closely?
I'll use small words that you'll be sure to understand, you warthog-faced buffoon.
Hello everybody, and welcome to After the Film. Today we're going to do something a little more complicated. We're going to take, I guess technically it's about 3 scenes from the movie Ex Machina, and we're going to break them down. Look at some details. First, in case you haven't seen the movie.
So how does a programmer get to be meeting the CEO? I won a competition. The president can't get Mr. Garrick on the phone, and you got the golden ticket.
That is Ex Machina. Great movie, great science fiction movie. Deals with issues of free will, gender. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. And it's good. A little bit of setup. Caleb, played by Domhnall Gleeson, has just arrived at the weird, isolated house/laboratory of Nathan, played by Oscar Isaac. The house is very cold. There's a lot of glass, a lot of metal. There's little nice intrusions of stonework and natural stuff into the house, but mostly it's very impersonal. We open this sequence with Caleb. He's been wandering through the house, and he comes to find Nathan. And the first one's very simple. It's like there's a lot of dealing in glass separating things in this movie, and it's like we're inside this aquarium. Even though the natural world outside looks more like the kind of stuff you'd see in an aquarium, we're inside this unnatural environment. We're with Caleb, and we're coming out of it to find Nathan. Caleb comes outside. Briefly, you get a reflection in the glass, and this movie deals with reflections as well as it does with glass several times, which has to do with identity and duplicitous nature of the way people interact with each other. It's a whole thing. It's complicated. But then we get to the introduction of Nathan. And on the one hand, he's like this hyper-masculine figure. He's out there working out. But on the other hand, in the frame, he's smaller than Caleb. We're still with Caleb. What's important about the masculinity thing, though, is that this is deliberate. And I don't mean on the part of the filmmakers, but yes, on the part of the filmmakers. It's also deliberate on the part of Nathan. He knows Caleb's arriving. Caleb arrived by helicopter and is out in the middle of nowhere. Caleb had to go through a sequence of getting a security guard at the front door. He's had to walk through the house. Nathan knows he's arriving, and at that moment is deliberately out on the deck, punching a punching bag.
Caleb Smith.
Hey.
Dude!
I cut that one short on purpose because it's very simple juxtaposition. You get a little bit of that reflection thing at the beginning, but what's more important is you have Nathan approaching, still that hyper-masculine figure, undoing the wraps on his hands, and you don't expect this very, very friendly dude. And that's deliberate on the part of Nathan, deliberate on the part of the filmmakers. They're juxtaposing 2 different versions of what we should expect. He's this really friendly guy who also is very manipulative.
Been so looking forward to this week with you. Come on in.
Thanks.
You want something to eat or drink after your journey?
No, thanks.
Sure?
I'm fine. Yeah.
To be honest, I thought we'd have breakfast together, but
More juxtaposition. You have, on the one hand, visually, you have these 2 representations of masculinity. The guy that's in a workout gear versus the guy that's in a nice suit, which is a masculine image, but a very different kind of masculine image. And then coming to I had to abrupt cut off there, but that's the point. We have this, Nathan is being very friendly, but he's still keeping Caleb at this distance while reeling him in.
I can't really eat anything. I got the mother of all fucking hangovers.
Oh, yeah?
Oh my God, like you wouldn't even believe. When I have a heavy night, I compensate the next morning. Exercise, antioxidants, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And then we have more of Nathan as this sort of dual figure. He's not the one that's been reflected on the glass, but he's basically talking about himself as if at night he is a very different person than he is during the day. He's compensating with exercise and healthy consumption to make up for a hangover. And it's about to get awkward.
Was it a good party?
Party?
Yeah, wasn't there a party? There wasn't a party. Sorry.
See? Awkward. And this gets to an interesting point about the movie as a whole. And keep in mind, we're only a few minutes into the movie at this point. But there's something wrong with Caleb. Maybe that's why he's there, because he's this awkward, nerdy computer guy. But there might be more to it. Later in the film, spoilers.
Not fair.
Later in the film, he actually begins to suspect that he might also be a robot, an android, and this is important. If you look at this scene, this awkwardness is vital to understanding whether or not that's possible, whether or not he could be, or whether or not it matters. In writing about this for my blog, I found this research, this thing. It was a 13-year-old Ukrainian boy named Ernest Gustman. Fake, doesn't exist, computer program. Was able to convince several researchers that he was human. And part of it was that by being 13, by not knowing anything, by being Ukrainian and not being good with English, that awkwardness, that disconnect in the communication levels, made it easier for him to be believable as human, because awkwardness doesn't fit an android. Or, that's the argument I made, awkwardness is proof that the android is really, really well designed. Caleb doesn't know shit. He doesn't understand social cues. He hears about a hangover and he thinks, I'm supposed to ask why that happened. I'm supposed to make conversation. But then again, the way the movie is, never answers the question whether or not he's an android. The movie never really asks that question, but Caleb does. Cuts open his own arm in order to see if there's blood inside, if there's muscle inside. The thing is, why does it matter? There's this bit in the movie where Nathan asks about Caleb's type, what he's into.
Did you program her to flirt with me?
If I did, would that be cheating?
Wouldn't it?
Caleb, what's your type?
Of girl?
No, of salad dressing. Yeah, of girl. What's your type of girl? You know what? Don't even answer that. Let's say it's black chicks. Okay? That's your thing. For the sake of argument, that's your thing. Okay? Why is that your thing? Because you did a detailed analysis of all racial types and you cross-referenced that analysis with a points-based system? No. You're just attracted to black chicks. A consequence of accumulated external stimuli that you probably didn't even register as they registered with you.
Did you program her to like me? Or not?
I programmed her to be heterosexual, just like you were programmed to be heterosexual.
Nobody programmed me to be straight.
You decided to be straight? Please, of course you were programmed. By nature or nurture or both. And to be honest, Caleb, you're starting to annoy me now because this is your insecurity talking. This is not your intellect.
And he's talking about programming, like, societal programming, cultural programming, natural programming. Yes, your type comes from somewhere. It's not something you just picked. Nathan's being flippant when he says you didn't go through all of these, like, types and judge each one of them and measure them against each other. But yes, you did. It just, assuming Caleb's human, took him 26 years to do it. It doesn't mean he didn't do it. And the question that really the movie raises is, what's the difference between the programming put into like a 1-year-old AI or a 26-year-old man? If they're both programmed over time, if they both can act awkward, if they both can misunderstand communication cues, if they both can betray you, does that mean they're both human? Let's get back to the clips.
Caleb, I'm just gonna throw this out there so it's said, okay? You're freaked out.
I am?
Yeah, you're freaked out by the helicopter and the mountains and the house because it's all so super cool. And you're freaked out by me to be meeting me, having this conversation in this room at this moment, right?
And there's more of the programming right there in terms of in the story. That helicopter ride, that going out into the middle of nowhere. On the one hand, yes, you put your lab out in the middle of nowhere so no one can get to it, but also you fly this guy out there without really telling him all the details of what he's doing because it puts him on edge. It freaks him out. That's what you want. You want to be able to manipulate him into doing what you want, to signing, as we'll see in a few moments, your non-disclosure agreement so that he'll work for you, he'll do what you want, and ultimately endanger his own life in doing so. Because that's power.
And I get that. I get the moment you're having, but dude, can we just get past that? Can we just be two guys, Nathan and Caleb, not the whole employer-employee?
Can we just be two guys? This is Nathan countering all of the previous stuff, countering the setup to try to force Caleb to want to be close. And this is all on purpose. This is all programming. Whether or not Nathan is doing it consciously, it's just the way he deals with the world. It's a man's world, and he's a computer programmer in a world where he lives alone with robots that he controls. That's just how he views things.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. It's good to meet you, Nathan.
It's good to meet you too, Caleb.
Good to meet you. He's trying to put them on equal footing. Pulling Caleb back up. He's keeping him on the line, as it were.
Well, I guess the first thing I should do is explain your past. Now, it's simple enough. It opens some doors and it doesn't open others. And that just makes everything easy for you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, fuck, I'm in someone else's house. Can I do this? Can I do that? And this card, it just takes all that worry away. If you try a door and it stays shut, okay, it's off limits. If you try another door and it opens, then it's for you.
Two things out of this one. One, the house, you see more of it. It's not a house. It's even more impersonal, more cold. And the interaction with its doors is impersonal. This key card is not like a regular key where you have to interact with the lock. You just kind of put it there. It's all robotic. It's all electronic. But the phrasing there at the end, he's talking about the doors as if they belong to Caleb. He's inviting him in. He's reeling him in.
Let's try this one. I guess it's for you, Caleb.
You can barely see it there at the end, but there's almost this little moment of excitement as Caleb realizes, hey, this is my room. It's like a kid when their family moves into a new house. And this is going to be your bedroom. He's excited. And he's falling for it. Like, there's a bit of the rest of what Nathan is doing is overkill, because Caleb wants this.
You like?
Yeah.
It's your room. You got a bed here, a bathroom right back here, little desk, cupboards, little fridge.
And here we have a couple things. It's mostly just Nathan listing the amenities of the room. But an important visual at the beginning is it echoes the beginning of this sequence we've been covering. That we're going back into the darkness, but they're coming together. Before, Caleb was alone going out to meet Nathan. Now, they're coming back inside. And they're together. Nathan's one. And it's about to get interesting because there's about to be a little bit more of a test of Caleb's programming.
Cozy, right?
Yeah, this is great.
What?
Sorry?
There's something wrong. What's wrong?
There's nothing wrong.
It's the windows. You're thinking there's no windows. It's subterranean. It's not cozy. It's claustrophobic.
No way. I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking this is really cool.
So there you have it. Think about it. Caleb's an android. How does that sequence happen any differently? If Caleb's human, but awkward, how does that sequence happen any differently? This is very easily a test. It's Nathan saying, you need to recognize that something's unusual. You need to recognize that humans don't like this room. But Caleb doesn't recognize it. And when it's pointed out, he refuses. Because he's already accepted it. He's already said that it's okay. So he has to justify it. And this works whether he's an android or a human, because the same thing happens in, like, societal programming. We learn to accept what we have, or at least claim that we accept it. Because being otherwise would be rude. It'd be more awkward. He's already awkward enough.
Caleb, there's a reason there are no windows in this room.
There is?
Uh-huh. This building isn't a house. It's a research facility. Buried in these walls is enough fiber optic cable to reach the moon and lasso it.
A couple great words in there. There's a reason. It's like, this is the purpose for your existence. This is the purpose for why you're here, this moment, this time, this place. And then at the end, that fiber optic cable is going to go lasso the moon. Lasso's a good word. I've been saying he's reeling in Caleb, but here he's also lassoing it. He's grabbing it. He's telling him, this is who you're going to be. And the great thing of this movie is that, again, it works, whether or not Caleb is an android or an awkward human. Whether or not he's the one doing the testing or if he's the test subject, or both. It still works.
And I want to talk to you about what I'm researching. I want to share it with you. In fact, I want to share it with you so much it's eating me up inside. But there's something I need you to do for me first.
With different dialogue, this is the seduction. Walks toward him, and he sits down on the bed. This is intimate. This is personal. I want to share. It's a key word. He wants to share. It's not, I want you to work for me. We're in this together. It's a way of, again, programming him. Getting him to do what he wants. We'll skip ahead, skip the text of the non-disclosure agreement, but it is important that Caleb feels the need to read it all. It actually makes him feel a little more robotic, that he has to check the details.
What can I tell you, Caleb? You don't have to sign it. You know, we can spend the next few days just shooting pool, getting drunk together, bonding. And when you discover what you've missed out on in about a year, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life.
So while Caleb was reading the non-disclosure agreement, Nathan's laying on the bed. So more of that intimacy thing. And at the same time, it's more of him claiming ownership of the location. Even when he's just said it's Caleb's room, he's the one laying on the bed. And then he comes over and sits close to him to talk about what's going to happen. You sign this, we work together. You don't, hey, we still get to bond. Yeah. Positive. Win-win scenario. So you might as well pick this one. He's pulled him in. And what we have is this hyper-masculine figure manipulating this more diminutive, not necessarily masculine figure. And that ties into all the themes of this movie with the artificial intelligence, the free will, the gender thing, the sexuality, societal programming. It all comes together in this. So you have this guy manipulating this person or android to do exactly what he wants him to do, while making him think that he picked it. That's what this movie's about. It's about how society, or how we eat each other, how we program each other, how we make each other do things, how we manipulate each other. And often don't even feel manipulated, because that's just what happens. If you haven't seen it, go see Ex Machina. It's awesome.
Cut.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment.